This time on Island Adventures, we're ready for a party. Time on Island Adventures, we've come all the way to Mannum to celebrate Luke's boat, the Daisy's 130th birthday. So it was party hats for all, except it was so windy that some of the boats piked out from attending. But not us, to our detriment a bit, having copped a few waves over the front of the boat and all over Jacko, who was just trying his best to survive. And so our adventuring plans for the day had to be shelved. Luke's idea of having a small gathering of friends and family was blown out of the water when Win News decided to put it on the TV the other week. So now we're expecting half the state to turn up down here for birthday cake, which nearly blew away in the wind itself before Luke tied it down. Luckily, I was in Mannum with Siobhan on the following Saturday to captain the Mayflower, so we managed to film a few locations then, which is why the storyline in this episode is a bit messed around. Yeah, nah, good chat, mate, good chat. Just up the street from the Daisy's birthday, near Shearer's old wharf at Marianne Reserve, is a big wooden hole in the ground, which I think is worth visiting. The township of Mannum, in fact, mostly grew up around this hole in the ground, unlike the township of Berry, which grew into a hole in the ground. But I was supposed to leave that joke for another episode. This here is the Mannum Dry Dock, and it's been here since June 1876. But what a lot of people probably don't realise is that it was actually built in Mannum 2.5 years earlier. If you're not quite sure what you're looking at, this is virtually a servicing pit for paddle steamers and barges. Not where they would be built, but just where they'd be maintained. This particular one was even more interesting. Not that it worked, but cooler in the premise that it was actually built as a floating dry dock, a little bit like a wheelbarrow crossed with a submarine. This floating dry dock was built by little Tommy Smith for A.H. Landseer at Malane, coincidentally on the same patch of land that the Marion was built on 24 years later, and was launched into Lake Alexandrina on September the 18th, 1873. Landseer's floating dry dock was basically a barge of its own, at 144 feet long, 44 feet wide and 9 feet deep, and was reputed to be the largest floating dry dock in the Southern Hemisphere, which we all know is straight cap, but that's what the newspaper article said. The idea of this floating dry dock is the same as the seagoing docks for some of the largest vessels in the world. The dock partially submerges in the water, allowing the boat to float into the chamber, and then the dock is pumped out and rises with the vessel inside, which is now removed from the water so that work can be undertaken on the hull. The problem with Landseer's dock was that Lake Alexandrina wasn't deep enough to submerge the dock low enough to allow boats to enter it. Its calculated lift was supposedly 1,000 tonnes, but it never achieved that status. After nearly 3 years' inactivity, William Randall purchased the floating dry dock from Landseer's and towed it across Lake Alexandrina with the Nil Desperandum and the Ariel, up the Murray to Mannum, where it was manoeuvred into a hole into the bank, next to Stilling's Wharf. The dry dock was completed for service on June the 5th, 1876, which is just 3 weeks before the amphibious first entered the Murray. The first vessel to be put into the dry dock was the Lady Daly on June the 6th, but it was soon found that the dock would still try to rise and float when the water was pumped out, and so large piles were driven through the hull of the dock and rock weights were placed on the ends to hold it down. From late 1880 onwards, the dry dock became a major piece of infrastructure on the river. In 1885 alone, the Mannum dry dock serviced 15 different boats and barges. After William Randall's passing in 1911, the dock was leased to the Gem Navigation Co. for a year, and then operations were taken over in early 1913 by Captain J.G. Arnold, who constructed his launching ways alongside in what is now known as Arnold Park. Construction of 2 bin barges was undertaken alongside the dry dock in 1914, followed on December 15th by the launching of the Argo barge, and on February the 23rd, 1915, her twin, the Albion. Into the 1920s, the Mannum dry dock was still servicing boats such as the Gem, the Corowa, and even the Captain Sturt managed to squeeze inside in December 1918. The end of the Mannum dry dock's working life came in 1928 with the completion of Murray Shipping's slipway at Morgan. From then until the early 1960s, the dock was virtually abandoned until the 28th of September 1963, when the paddle steamer Marion was placed into the dry dock to become a static museum, which opened the following 8th of February. When the Marion was refloated in 1992, the dry dock was also attended to. The dock gate was found buried in the mud and was reinstated, and once the Marion had been removed, it was found that overall the dry dock was in remarkably good condition for its treatment, with all the rollers and trestles still intact. Today, the dry dock is the centrepiece of the Mannum Dock Museum, which also houses the paddle steamer Marion and the Mayflower.
Behind the scenes.
Yes.
Fuck, it's dark in here.
This is the boiler from the Marianne. See how it's like not straight anymore. And this lived in the water for a few years. We tossed it over the side, and then a few years later, should probably like put that in a bit of museum.
Oh, we might actually want that back or something.
Yeah, so they fished it back out. This is made out of wood.
Could have fooled me.
Yeah. Siobhan's going to learn how to drive a boat.
Actually, I already have a boat license.
Oh.
Just not for this one.
Big flex.
Big flex.
You just go left and right. That's pretty much it. And that stick out the front. You'll see how if you go like this, that stick will start moving across. Whoa. And then you turn it back the other way. Yeah. But you got to go like equal amounts back the other way. And that little green flag out the back's on your rudder. Yeah.
Is that where all the rich people live?
Yeah, it is. That's like the James was. Mannum. This large sort of marina that we're coming past here is called Mannum Waters, and it was built here about 15 or 20 years ago.
The industry which on her 13th birthday? Yes. Back to the dark ages. Many, many moons ago. Jim Oh my god, you still have that?
Yeah.
Shit.
I think you should blow that
October
up, hang
20.
it on the wall.
Yes.
Have you talking of hanging things on the wall? Have you put your certificate up yet?
That's still a photo of it.
We, when he was training on this, I wrote him up the certificate, the ones that we give the kids. And then I got Kevin to sign it. Who was the captain on the day. Actually, he should put it up in the Avalon.
I promise. Yeah. Oh, what are you doing? It's got to blow away if you put it there.
Then you can come forward in. Jacko's perfection parking skills.
Yes.
He didn't crash.
Yes. Just been to
El Bakery.
Randall Street Bakery. We're going to do a Barmera Bakery review. Oh look, it's the princess's office. So I got just a plain pie with sauce.
Basic bitch.
I'll probably use like 15 seconds of this.
A whole cheeseburger.
And a whole cheeseburger pie. What is in a cheeseburger pie?
No, a cheeseburger? Sponsored by Nippies.
Superb as always. So what's your review on Randall Street cheeseburger pie?
The cheeseburger pie that actually was a lamb and rosemary pie still tasted good, but I'm disappointed there was no cheeseburger.
Oh,
I was hoping for pickles. Nothing. But the lamb and rosemary was still good. Very rosemary-y.
mine was alright, can't complain. It was a pie. It was
Basic bitch ass meat pie.
Yeah. Just like to do a shout out to Dylan, Cheyenne and Milo the dog, long-term fans of Island Adventures. Organised by Smoke Australia Renmark. Back at the Daisy's birthday, the wind was making everything difficult, but I still took my chance to head up to the town wharf and get a photo alongside the Murray Princess, the largest inland vessel in the southern hemisphere. I sound a bit like that paper article earlier, don't I?
Yeah.
Mark just said you need a cake ride. Luke, you're responsible for that.
Never before has anyone ever tied down a birthday cake for bad weather. Yeah.
What are you complaining about? I'm just a smoke man.
Get a photo before it all goes flying in different directions. Yeah.
I don't want to make this a really long speech because there's nothing to say. You know why we're here. Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for people that brought boats down, because the point is that these boats still exist, especially the old ones. It's windy, so the cake's flying away, that's alright. There's one main person to thank for the boat, and that's Andrew Cook. He didn't want me to outline him, but I am. He was the passionately mad bloke that decided to raise Daisy as a wreck and, I wouldn't say build it, but rebuild it. Give her another 100 years of life, so yeah, happy birthday Daisy, and hopefully she lasts another 130 years.
Yeah.
Behind it, Luke.
Look, stand behind it, you can see the path. If you come close. That's it.
You see it? Alright. Thank you. That's it. Nothing more to say.
Is that a real cake?
Yeah.
This is all for show, isn't it? You got an electric drive sitting there.
After the cake cutting, I decided to call it quits with the Avalon and battled my way back to the boat ramp so I could go help Luke and Maya move the Daisy instead. The flotilla from Mannum up to Greening's Landing was postponed an hour and a half with the bad weather before anyone could leave.
Stop wasting steam!
4 kilometres upstream of Mannum on the Quarries side is a spot that I've wanted to visit for many years. It looks pretty nondescript at the moment, but its value over 100 years ago still benefits the entire river system today. The indigenous name for this place is Tonton Rocks, but it is more well known as the site of the Mannum Quarries, where almost all of the granite was sourced for the building of the South Australian controlled locks and weirs 1 to 9. Due to the large solid hills of Mannum granite, a magna deposit thought to be 480 million years old, the stone made the perfect concrete aggregate for withstanding the centuries of water erosion that the locks and weirs would encounter. Construction began here in December 1914, and by March 1915 the 4-storey high crusher house was completed for use. However, work didn't commence here until November 1916 with the arrival of the Union Engineering Company boilers, made in Adelaide, and the air compressor and crushing plant equipment coming from America. The sternwheeler Captain Sturt, also brought in from America, was reassembled here alongside the crusher and launched on the 20th of May 1916. Pneumatic drills were used to break away the granite from the cliff face, and some of the drill marks are still visible here today. Once felled, the stone was taken across the yard to the crusher by a small railway hauled by Franzak, the horse. There, the granite would be crushed into a manageable size and loaded directly into the bin barges at the wharf outside by a conveyor belt. The Captain Sturt would push 3 barges, a combined total of 800 tonnes at a time, and Captain Arnold's big PS Mannum and the Quira barge could manage 900 tonnes in a single load. In 1920 alone, the 2 boats carried 4,320 tonnes of crushed granite just to Lock 3. At its peak in 1926-27, the Mannum Quarries employed 22 workers and produced 16,298 tonnes. In total, about 60,000 tonnes of crushed granite was excavated from this site, up until the completion of Locks 7 and 8 in 1934-35. Today, only a few concrete plinths remain where the crusher house was.
This won't bomb the jetty.
Yeah. Within an hour of setting off, we'd made it up to Greening's Landing, a nice place just 12 kilometres upstream of Mannum. Survival. Amongst the willows and small bridges at Greening's Landing, there's one last cool boat that we wanted to show you this episode. This abnormally shaped, half-sunk and rusting launch was once the pinnacle of family yachts on the Murray River, so much so that even the South Australian government purchased it at one stage. The Alexandrina was actually built in Govan, Scotland in 1884 by consignment to Mr. Alan McFarlane Jr. of Wellington Lodge at the top end of Lake Alexandrina. McFarlane's launch was constructed by Elder Smith & Co. for Willens and Robinson, the designers and builders of the launch's engines, 2 3-cylinder compound steam engines. She measured 65 foot 6 long, 10 feet wide and drew 3 foot 6. The launch was sent to Australia in flat pack, 10 crates shipped to Adelaide aboard the Oriana, not the one you're thinking of, but the one well before that. The Oriana arrived in Adelaide with the flat pack launch on board on August 6, 1885. The packages were then railed to Malang and then transshipped across Lake Alexandrina to Wellington Lodge by a barge towed by the PS Paringa. There, McFarlane's launch was reassembled by well-known boat builder Frank Potts of Langhorne Creek and his son Fred. The Alexandrina was launched from McFarlane's purpose-built slip at Wellington Lodge in August 1886. Incredibly, Frank Potts didn't charge McFarlane a single cent for the whole reassembly of the boat, despite many letters from McFarlane offering Potts to name his price. After her first voyage to Murray Bridge in December 1886, the Alexandrina was used by the McFarlane family as their private yacht on the lake and river for many years, including visits to Malang for the Easter Regatta, which the family's sailing yacht, the Pasquin, competed in. For most of her time when not in use, the Alexandrina was kept out of the water on her slip at Wellington Lodge. In October 1910, 2 years after the passing of Alan McFarlane Jr., the Alexandrina was sold to the South Australian Government's Irrigation and Reclamation Department to replace the Alma. Her new home was at the irrigation department's slip at Murray Bridge, which is now Moritz's slipway. The Alexandrina was used by Samuel McIntosh, the officer in charge of the irrigation department, for official inspections and tours with dignitaries and politicians along the Murray in South Australia, visiting various sites including Cobdogla. After her sinking in 1916, the Willan steam engines were replaced with 2 invincible kerosene engines. During her time with the irrigation department, her skipper was Alec Grundy, who was the captain of the Torella, which was also owned by the department. In 1934, the Alexandrina was sold to Murray Walker of Walker's Flour Mill in Mannum and moored at their wharf opposite the mill, nearby Captain Arnold's big PS Mannum at the rear of the butter factory. In 1949, Bill and Norm Collins purchased the Alexandrina, following Murray Walker's passing, and moved the boat upstream to Mildura, where they intended to convert her into a pleasure cruiser. But the opportunity to buy the Trix instead came up, and they sold the Alexandrina 10 months later to Eddie Lear. On July 26, 1954, the Alexandrina was nearly destroyed by fire on an excursion at Wentworth. Having just exited Lock 10, a petrol leak started a fire in the engine room, and the boat was extinguished by the fire brigade with the help of some of the passengers at Junction Reserve. However, a lot of the boat's original fittings and furnishings were destroyed or damaged in this incident. She was rebuilt with an almost full-length cabin, which stayed with her for the intervening years, through the 1960s and 70s, until she was purchased by Ralph Mabey in November 1986. Ralph's father, Fred, had owned the boat since May 1979, but Ralph's intentions were to restore the Alexandrina to her former glory, which began to transpire in the late 1980s and early 1990s with a full rebuild, eventually returning her to her irrigation department era outfit by 1999. Unfortunately, the boat is no longer owned by Ralph and has fallen into disrepair in the last few years and is in desperate need of another saviour in the present day.
Apparently not that long ago, because it had the canvas between the sheathing and the steel. Apparently not that long ago, it wasn't actually that bad. Like,
Yeah.
off and it was brand new.
They reckon that, I don't know what you call it, petrified canvas or whatever underneath was pretty good. Yeah, I remember seeing it like 10 years ago and the planks were getting like this and I thought, oh, that'll be down soon. And they're like, no, that's just like for show virtually on the outside. I don't know if I want to step on it. Oh, not that bad. Oh.
My goodness.
At least it's floating. Last time I was here it was listing more than that. You could see the prop sitting on a rock.
It's more concerning is on that angle and it's floating.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, isn't it? Gorgeous boat.
I mean, you can see it all from here. But...
I don't know what did it.
There's a project for you.
I think I'd prefer the Australian over this.
Yeah, I like the Australian things.
Yeah. Well, this is pretty solid still.
By July.
Not as much room down here as I thought there'd be. I thought they had like a bloody fancy saloon and shit. I suppose it's a sunken cabin, so you get a bit of headroom.
I was dry on this side.
Yeah.
Suppose that's all up there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't want to go poking and prodding this hole, but it doesn't look too bad on the inside.
Yeah. It's not caked on rust.
I think this is all probably rainwater.
Oh, this is a shower here. Oh yeah, there's a fair bit of water in here. There's even like a gecko in the toilet.
It's alright, the shower's dry though.
Yeah, that's the only part that's dry.
It's in a tub and there's water up to the top of the tub all the way around it. Oh, there's a bit of saloon still in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon. It's alright though, it hasn't sunk recently. There's an algae line where the water's up to currently.
Yes.
Is this the rudder?
I suppose.
There's a rudder post in the quadrant.
Oh, you wasn't sitting on the rudder at some stage and they took it off?
Oh, that's quadrant of the rudder. Yeah, I reckon this is the rudder post.
What's that?
There you
Yeah.
go, there's the rudder there.
Yeah.